Hey everyone, welcome to Ask for a Footprint. My name is Nissa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. Today is like day 8 of Vlogmas, and I have only this video and one more really to go that are going to be Vlogmas, and then we'll see what we can do. So I thought today it's Sunday, and quite often I do a chat on Sunday, so I thought that that's what I'd do for this video. And then I've got my planning video for tomorrow, but I haven't quite finished collating all the actual planning yet, so I want to finish that tonight and I'll do that tomorrow. So I thought we'd have a chat about, I get a lot of questions about the Ketovore and stuff like that and how it's been going in that. So I thought that I'd reflect a little bit on that before I go to do the next grocery haul. Some of the planning for the groceries is going to, be intertwined with that as well, because of what we used and what I wasn't aware we were going to use and the quantities, because the different style of eating. So I've been doing like 2 monthly groceries for a while now. And I pretty much know exactly what I needed to buy, but that was before we changed the eating habits. So now there's a new sort of a learning curve to it. I'm sitting in the kitchen. It's not the nicest backdrop, but it is really hot today. I think it was 37, and it's sunny, and I just can't find anywhere to sit that is comfortable unless I wait another couple of hours, and because it's 3:30. But I just wanted to get this sort of finished rather than dragging it out, because I'm tired, basically. So the sooner I get this done, the sooner I get dinner started, the sooner I can have a shower and basically just do nothing. Well, edit this, but because it's a chat video, it'll be minimal editing. I'll have to listen to myself and watch myself for the whole video, which is like the highlight of my evening, and then get it uploading. So the rest of the time I can just sit with a book or something and just relax until I get to finish the planning tomorrow. So it's been about 2 months that we've been on the Ketovore. So from the time that I came back, we just went smack bang. From that moment of coming back shopping, we were eating the low carb. So very low carb, as in like a couple of grams of carbs to 10, 15 grams of carbs a day. And I have been tracking, it was a little higher initially because we had all the fresh green veggies. So we were eating a lot of veggies, and of course broccoli and all that. They have carbs in them, and they have a decent amount when you're eating large amounts of it. And initially when we have all that surplus vegetables, and I love my vegetables, we were eating them pretty heavily. So the carb counts at the beginning of the 2 months would have been a lot higher than they are by the end of the month, because basically we run out of food. We don't. Of course we don't. There's plenty of food. We run out of choice of food. So I think we're definitely sort of more on the meat-based keto at the beginning of the 2 months, and then by the end of the 2 months, we're more carnivore with some keto-baked stuff. But I'm not having much luck with the keto-baked stuff. But that sort of comes into the fact too that we ran out of almond flour. I've had to really ration that out. I bought a few bits and pieces to make my own keto flour blend off a couple of the recipes that I found online, but I haven't been able to do that yet until I get some more almond flour. So we only bought 1 bag of almond flour last shopping trip, because that's about all we'd normally go through. A couple of baked treats that I like almond flour in and things like that. But when we're not using grains and standard white flour, then it's become more heavily relied on. So I will probably buy 3 or 4 bags of it this month, which is a huge cost outlay. But the thing is that there's a bunch of different things that I want to try baking for Christmas and make that, all my standard stuff. I'm going to do a trifle. So I'm going to do a sort of it won't be a sponge cake because it's done with almond flour, but a lighter vanilla cake to use to make a trifle with, and we're only going to make them in small quantities. But you still use a fair whack of almond flour for everything. Like, a recipe might only be a small cake, but it uses a cup and a half of almond flour because that's the main focus of the recipe. So the flour recipe that I'm going to try, the blend, is Victoria's Keto Kitchen one, and it has oat fibre as well as, or bamboo fibre she's been using recently, but I bought oat fibre with the almond flour and things like that, and it's made up to be a flour blend that you can use to make anything that you'd normally make gluten-free. Now, when Surreal was a baby, she couldn't do gluten, she couldn't do wheat, she couldn't do soy, she couldn't do dairy, she couldn't do a lot of things. And I used to make everything gluten-free, and it all tasted great. So I think it's just going to be changing a mindset to that again. I did think about, there is a cake that I make all the time, and I have oranges canned on my shelf that I make it the whole orange and almond cake, and I reckon that would be super easy to change because there's no flour in it anyway. It's just going to be using the sweetener instead of sugar, and having to use a decent amount of sweetener because you still need that bulking of it. But I reckon I could make that in small cakes that would be really nice, frozen, and then it's really fudgy and dense and rich. So I'm definitely going to make that because it should just transfer straight away. And I think that's the thing, you need to get out of the mindset of making things that you used to make. So like the donuts, I really just wanted them to work. And they weren't going to, because even the people who have made them work, have you noticed, I have noticed recently, and it drives me nuts, a lot of the keto cooking channels use AI for all their images for their thumbnails. So the thumbnails of the food is not even the food that they're cooking, and half the time you go into the recipe and you go and watch the video, and by the end of it there's a flops as well. Sometimes they're not, but a lot of the time they are. And I know that those donuts were probably mostly my fault because I used half the amount of cottage cheese that I was supposed to. And I don't really know why I was set on having them donut shape. I think it was purely because of those protein donuts that I bought, and I've still got like 3 packets of them, so the donut trays will be used for them for the kids, and that will be neat and all. But I should have just made them as little mini cakes or something, I don't know. But I will get there with some of that baking. It's just going to take some finagling with figuring out what I want to do and how much effort I want to put in and things like that. But the different brands of cottage cheese make a difference in a whole lot of things. So I don't think I want to rely on the cottage cheese aspect. I think I'd prefer to look at it as gluten-free baking. So that's what I'm going to do. Low carb, gluten-free is what I'm going to try and do over Christmas for our things. I'm also going to make jellies and stuff. I always make jellies for the kids. So I'm going to buy some low sugar cranberry juice and things like that. But anyway, this was more supposed to be reflections on how it's gone. So we need more red meat. That's one of my big take homes from the last 2 months. Chicken is just not as satisfying. Chicken is cheaper, so we tend to eat more chicken, but normally we're eating more chicken with pasta and potato and all that sort of thing. So chicken is just not as satisfying. So I am going to have to invest in some more steak and red meat this 2 month period. I was going to order a bulk meat order. So the meat online place that I showed the bulk meat order a few weeks ago, I was going to order another one before Christmas, but I decided not to. My budget is a little skewed around this shopping trip because YouTube pays out around about the 22nd of the month. And so normally I would have gone shopping that week, like of the 22nd, but it's Christmas, so I'm going a week beforehand, and it's just meant that the budget's a little firmer around the corners for the shopping trip because of that pay date is post the groceries. So I decided not to do the meat order just so I didn't have to worry about pinching that even tighter around the budget. I'll do that after Christmas at some point. But it just means I need to buy some of the stuff from the butcher. And regularly when I go to the butcher, I look at the steaks and I want to buy them, but I don't because the dollar per kilo is so much higher than buying chicken or buying mince and things like that. But it's a little bit of a necessity with this diet. It really is. The earlier in the month when we had more red meat, definitely felt sated, definitely felt full, definitely felt like I was eating enough and things like that. And later on in the month now, the chicken, with the heavier chicken feed, it's not enough. So we're going to definitely buy more red meat for that purpose. We do eat less on it, so the costs of the steak is somewhat outweighed by the fact that overall Daryl and I are eating far less food, but at the same time we're eating far less of those filler items, which were cheap anyway. So no pastas, no potatoes, no things like that, which were all the filler items and bulked up our meals, but they were actually the cheap ones, cheap aspects of it too. So I don't know how much it really correlates. When I do the planning tomorrow, I'll share with you some of the costs that we've spent during the month over and above what we normally would. So Daryl goes to the RGA or the Food Works in town regularly because when he goes to the post office. So we've had to buy things like cream and cheese and things like that throughout the last few weeks because I didn't buy anywhere near enough. Which means that the groceries from last month, the overall price has really kicked up by what we've had to buy. So there's that. Like because I didn't buy appropriately for the 2 months, we've had to top it up with a whole bunch of things from a whole bunch of different places that has then cost more because it's more expensive to buy it from there. But storage of things like, so butter and cheese and all that freezes fine if you've got freezer room. Cream does freeze okay, but the 2 litre creams from Costco are the cheapest. It's 2 litres for $11.99, which is the cheapest dollar per 100 for cream that you can get. But you'd have to take some off the top before freezing it, and it's in 2 litres. So freezing it in 2 litres is a little inconvenient. If you freeze it straight away, and put a Nico on it that you froze it straight away, then you're gonna have like 10 days post pulling it out of the fridge to use it. It does separate a little bit, not too much of an issue if you're using it in cooking or coffee or things like that, but it's going to take up a lot of room for freezing purposes. So say I bought 3 maybe last month. I'd have to double check that. And we kind of went through, I want to say almost one a week, between using it for cooking, using it for coffee, using it for ice cream, using it for all those different things. I want to say we went through like one a week. So to buy 8 of them, the storage of 8 of them would be considerable, but that's also more than that, $96. Like, that's a lot of money on cream in one hit. And I know that it saves me later on because it's cheaper than buying it in the smaller amounts, but that's where I'm going to struggle a little bit with the grocery haul this month, I think, and where I spend the money for what I do. So I got waylaid again by the cost of groceries and that was more supposed to be tomorrow's video. But so regards health-wise, so Daryl has lost a whole bunch of weight. Now, we do have a set of scales here, but I think they're broken. They're not consistent, and our floors aren't very flat either. Like, all of our floors have some give in them, then nothing's particularly square. So our bedrooms are probably the squarest because they had all that metal framing with the heavyweight flooring, but they will have rugs on them, so that makes it a little bit difficult. But the scales seem to be giving him a different result constantly no matter where we use them, so I might look at purchasing some new scales. But via the scale, so he got weighed in the doctor's surgery for what he calls an old man checkup. So, like a over 40-year-old man, they go to the nurse for general health checkup every 12 months or whatever. So he got checked there, and he was under 100 kilos, and he was what we believe was 110-ish prior to starting. So he appears to have lost around about 12 kilos in the 8 weeks, which is amazing for him, and he's feeling really good about it. He's comfortable with the diet, and he wants to keep going. The ability to have brought the dairy back in and be able to eat cheese and all that has thrilled him as well. So he's doing well. He's lost a lot of centimeters around his waist. He did say I could use a couple of photos, so I might put a couple of photos in here of when he started versus what he was looking like most recently. I didn't take any photos. I didn't take any measurements or anything else. I tend to weigh myself when I go to my mum's place because it's every 8 weeks, and it's more just for me an acknowledgement that I haven't gained. That's how I've always done it. So I have weighed pretty much the same as I do now since I fell pregnant with Surreal. So Surreal is nearly 17 and a half. So I've never been concerned about my weight because it just stays the same. During pregnancy, end of pregnancy, it doesn't matter. My weight doesn't change. So I must lose a whole lot of weight during pregnancy and gain baby, but it still sits the same on the scales. So I've never been particularly concerned about my weight because it is what it is. So I don't know whether I've lost any actual kilo weight. I will check the scales when I go to mum's because that's where I normally weigh myself. However, my weight does fluctuate 10 to 15 kilos anyway, depending on where I am in my cycle. So how accurate the weigh-in at mum's is going to be don't know. I didn't do any measurements or anything or photos or anything either because I don't really care about the weight loss aspect of it. That was never my purpose. Daryl definitely wanted to lose some weight. He wanted to start trying to reduce the over 40-year-old man gut and things like that. So he was definitely looking to lose some weight, to take some pressure off his shoulders and things like that. That was never really my goal. The intent was to try and reduce inflammation and try and end up maybe off some of my painkillers and feeling better in general. I can't say that I've seen any change. Hard when you're really close to it as well, but I've tried to keep some notes and things like that. And I I'm still having to take the full dose of my TN meds. I'm still having to take ibuprofen and Panadol Fort and things like that to get through to exist. So for me, I haven't really seen much of a difference. I thought that my skin was clearing up a little bit. I have really severe psoriasis behind my ears, and I thought it was clearing up a little bit, but it doesn't. It's pretty bad again at the moment. So it depends on the weather as to how that goes as well. But I've instigated a few other things along with the diet to try and see if I can make some results. So like if I'm going to persevere with the diet, and we will, at least for the next 8 weeks, if I'm going to persevere with the diet, then it's worth doing a few other things in the scope of that to try and better our health. With the diet, of course, we're doing electrolytes because you need to when you're eating less and hot weather and stuff. We bought the Element stuff originally, the LMNT stuff originally, and actually really quite liked it, except for the chocolate flavors that were gross. But the citrus one and the grapefruit one and all that, they were quite nice. Very expensive though. So we've tried a couple of brands since then, the Redmond Salt ones, Relight, and the most recent one is Ultima that we're trying, all because they were cheaper. Don't really like any of them as much as we like the Element, which is really unfortunate. So if anyone has any suggestions, then feel free. If you low carb electrolyte mixes, because we might end up just going back to the citrus Element because that was the favorite one of them all. The Ultima ones that we've got now, they've got a lemonade flavor, and it tastes like aspirin. Like it tastes like that dissolvable aspirin that used to get given as a child. We're drinking them because they still cost money, and we have one a day each, and plenty of other water as well. But yeah, they're not great. So we may have to go back to the Element, which is just Element's like $65 for a 30 pack. So it's over $2 per stick. And if Daryl and I are both having one a day, it's $4 and something per day of electrolytes, and that's like significant. And I know it's not in comparisons. Like if we lived in Metro and we were buying a coffee each day, that would be like 3 times that amount between us. But it's still far more than I'd like to be paying. So anyone has any suggestions about electrolytes, put them in the description for me, because yeah, we're struggling a little bit. I have looked at using unflavored stuff with something else in the water, but when I priced up some of the water additives like the drops, the Zing drops and things like that, the amount that you use of those drops and then the cost of unflavored electrolytes, it all ends up much the same with a lot more hassle. So, and I'm one for doing things DIY and for making the choices that things take a little bit hard. Like if things are a little bit harder but they work out cheaper, then hey, I'm all for it. Everyone here knows that. But I can't find the happy medium of those at all. And unflavored in water is fine. I didn't mind it. It was slightly salty, but it was fine. But the thing is that because we're not drinking any other liquids but water at the moment, other than coffee, and the occasional coffee frappe, water gets really boring. And so it's really nice to have one drink bottle worth of flavor in a day, whatever that flavor is. So yeah, that's something I've struggled a little bit with. The other thing I did was I got contacted by Lullaby Luxury, which is this company here. They do CBD oil. So it is THC free, 99% CBD, pure CBD oil, 30 mils MCT, 1000 milligrams CBD, 0 THC. So I got contacted by these guys a couple of months ago and asked if I would like to try it. No requirements to do anything particular other than just share. So I decided to give this a go. I know that some people have huge success with CBD for pain, though I do know that some people swear by CBD with THC only. So it was worth a try. So I've only been using it for about 3 or 4 days because it only just turned up in the mail. But I have been using this for the last few days and giving it a go. There's a QR code that you can probably scan if you want to have a look at the company. but I'll put the link in the comments in the description box as well. And they sent this to me for free to give a go, just to share. So I will keep on sharing as to how it's going, if it seems to be making any difference at all. I'd really like to drop the dosage of my TN meds if I could. So that's sort of where the diet and everything else was trying to lead towards, was drop the TN meds and drop the paracetamol and ibuprofen. It would be really nice to drop all of those just to reduce them and not rely on them to just, get through each day. Only rely on them for really bad days would be really nice. The TN meds, obviously I can't stop completely. They have to be an ongoing thing to work, but I am on the max dosage at the moment. So it would be nice to drop that down and then have a ceiling that I can go towards if need be. So other than that, I don't know, I don't feel any different. Everyone is commenting that I look like I've lost weight, and hey, if I have, that's great, but it really wasn't the purpose behind doing this. So for me, whilst if I do, it's just a boon. It's not, anything, it's not the be all end all of anything. So I don't know, it's been a lot of work. I feel like it's been a lot of effort, and part of that's probably because I still have 6 children to feed, and even if I wanted to take carbs out of the diet, which I wouldn't because they're children, and I believe that they need a well-rounded diet and they can make their choices later, even if I wanted to remove some of the carbs, I couldn't afford it. I know that Daryl and I are going to need to boost up the red meat because chicken isn't enough. Well, if we're boosting it for us and then boosting it for them as well, and the cost factor would be too high. But I also don't think they need it, in my opinion. Like I don't want to offend anyone there or anything else, and I don't want to come across as it's the only option, because it's not. But I believe that the kids having a well-rounded diet at their age is a good thing. So I try and feed them as best I can within the scope of that, but I still think that the pasta and the breads and things like that all have their place in the kids' diet, and the fruit and veggies and stuff. So we will see. We will persevere for at least another 8 weeks because it's worthwhile doing. If we're going to attempt a diet, and you definitely want to, give it a full go. Daryl is intending to continue it indefinitely, I think. I think he's happy with it. I just have to scope the shopping to allow for him to continue to do it. Even if I started eating some sides that he isn't going to eat, he's happy to keep doing it that way. I just have to get the shopping down pat for that in accordance. But I'll at least give it the next 8 weeks, though we are going to buy a few things that are very much not carnivore and very dirty keto for over Christmas. I will be buying some sugar-free soft drinks. I have that sugar-free Kahlua that I made, so I'm going to buy some sugar-free things like lemonade and some sugar-free Coke to have with that. But also I got suggested ginger ale, so I will grab some ginger ale as well, some sugar-free ginger ale, and a few other bits and pieces that I like. I'm probably going to attempt to make a sugar-free pavlova and the sugar-free marshmallows and things like that. And again, they're all things that have huge amounts of sweetener in them that won't be our everyday, because I don't want to rely on adding those sweeteners in. If I'm going to stick to the diet, then yes, the occasional sweeteners are fine. I very much like my coffee frappes with a little bit of sweet. And I do like some baked goods occasionally, and my ice creams and things like that. I'm not sold on carnivore ice cream with no sweetener. I do like a bit of sweetener in my ice cream and stuff. But we definitely don't want to do it to huge scales, not only because I don't think it's great for you, but also because sweeteners are expensive. Like, sugar is cheap compared to sweeteners. So yeah, I don't know. It's all been a little... I'm not sold that it's the right thing for me, but nothing has really worked for me that I have ever tried. So we did Whole30 for months on end, and Daryl dropped weight. He felt better. His gut biome really improved. His whole everything improved, and I just didn't see much of a difference at all. Didn't lose any weight that I was aware of. Didn't go off any of my meds and anything else. I enjoyed Whole30 more than I have been enjoying the carnivore keto, because it had a whole bunch of extra, whole foods in it. And and maybe that's where I head back to. I still stick to no grains or whatever, but I head back to more whole foods. I don't know, but so we've done, and we did keto for years when the kids were little, and I didn't see any results from that either. So I don't know. We're gonna do the next 8 weeks. We'll see how we go, and then yeah. So anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow for the planning video, and I'll leave it there.